welcome to No One Is Watching, the place where the line between fact and nightmare begins to blur. Tonight, we're diving into one of the most disturbing, unsolved mysteries in modern history. A story so bizarre, so utterly haunting, that it feels like something ripped straight out of a horror film. Yet every single detail is real. To men lying side by side on a quiet Brazilian hillside, their faces covered with strange, homemade lead masks, a cryptic note beside them containing chilling instructions. Be at the agreed place at 4:30. Swallow capsules. Wait for signal. No visible wounds. No signs of struggle. No clear cause of death. Just two lifeless bodies. And a mystery that has tormented investigators and conspiracy theorists for decades. But what could possibly drive to ordinary men to die in such a bizarre way? Why the masks? What were the capsules they were supposed to take? And most importantly, what were they waiting for? Before we go deeper, ask yourself this. If you found a pair of lead masks and a cryptic note like this, would you put one on? Would you swallow the capsule? Or would you run, never looking back? Let me know in the comments, because after you hear what happened next, you might never trust your own curiosity again. The story begins on August 20th, 1966 in Brazil, on a grassy hill known as Hill. It was a warm afternoon when a young boy flying his kite spotted something unusual on the hillside. What looked like two figures lying motionless on the ground. At first, he thought they might be asleep or maybe drunk. But as he got closer, the scene became more disturbing. The two men were lying neatly side by side, their heads pointing uphill. Over their eyes were thick lead masks, the kind you might use to block out harmful radiation. And lying beside them was a single notebook with a brief, chilling message written inside. Be at the agreed place at 4:30. Swallow capsules. Wait for signal. The boy ran back to get help, and soon local police arrived. What they found would confuse them for decades. The men's clothes were in perfect order. Both were wearing clean suits and waterproof raincoats, despite the fact there had been no rain. There were no signs of a struggle, no defensive wounds, no indication of poisoning. Even stranger, there was no trace of the capsules mentioned in the note. Police quickly identified the bodies as Mano Pereira da Cruz and Miguel Viana, two local electronic technicians from a nearby town. They were well-liked, intelligent men with no history of crime, violence, or mental illness. So what on earth had led them here, to die on a lonely hill wearing masks of lead? The last confirmed sighting of them was 2 days earlier, on August 18th, when they told their families they were going to Rio de Janeiro to buy some electronic equipment. They withdrew a sum of money, boarded a bus, and left town. But instead of returning home with tools or supplies, they ended up here, dead, with nothing to show for their journey except that strange note. As investigators dug deeper, the mystery only grew more unsettling. Local shopkeepers recalled seeing the men purchase thick lead sheets, which they cut into crude masks, apparently by hand. They also bought waterproof coats, the same ones found on their bodies. When asked why they needed these unusual items, the men were vague, saying only that they were preparing for something important. But what could be so important that it required lead masks and mysterious capsules? And what exactly was the signal they were supposed to wait for? Was it a message from another person, a sign from the sky, or something not of this world? Then came another disturbing detail. Locals reported seeing strange flashing lights over hill on the very night the men were last seen alive. Some described them as glowing orbs. Others said it looked like a craft hovering in the distance, silent and unearthly. These reports were never confirmed, but they added an entirely new layer of fear to an already baffling case. Were the men attempting contact with extraterrestrials? Did they believe they were part of a secret scientific experiment? Or were they simply victims of a deadly hoax gone horribly wrong? As police continued their search, they expected to find obvious evidence. Maybe poison, a hidden weapon, or signs of a violent confrontation. Instead, they found nothing. No trace of the capsules mentioned in the note. No chemical residue in the men's systems that could explain their deaths. The cause of death was officially listed as unknown. Even stranger, the men had a large amount of cash in their possession when they died, and none of it was taken. If this had been a robbery, why would the killer leave the money behind? If this was a suicide, why had they gone to such elaborate lengths to stage it? Everything about the scene felt deliberate, ritualistic, and deeply unsettling. By the end of the first day, investigators were completely baffled. The evidence didn't point to any logical conclusion. Instead, it raised terrifying questions. Questions that still haunt the case to this day. Why were the men so calm and prepared, as if they knew exactly what was about to happen? Who wrote the note, and what kind of capsules were they supposed to take? And most disturbing of all, what signal were they waiting for? And did it ever come? As night fell on Hill, the investigation was only just beginning. But one thing was already clear. This was no ordinary death. This was the start of a mystery so strange, so terrifying, that the truth might be worse than any theory imaginable. His sun rose over Hill the next morning, but instead of answers, it only brought more questions. The two bodies were transported to the local morgue, where forensic teams prepared to uncover what had really happened to Manuel and Miguel. Police officers hoped for a clear explanation, maybe a toxic substance, a clear physical trauma, or some hint of violence. But when the autopsy began, investigators were immediately thrown into even deeper confusion. The men's organs were perfectly intact. No obvious wounds, no burns, no broken bones, no internal damage. Their bodies appeared completely normal, as though they had simply fallen asleep and never woken up. The one thing missing, the tests for toxicology, which could have determined if they were poisoned, were never completed. Because, according to officials, the local coroner's office was overwhelmed and under-equipped at the time. The samples they needed to run those tests were never preserved, meaning the truth was lost forever. This single mistake would haunt the case, leaving investigators with nothing but theories and horror. As investigators retraced the men's final days, they uncovered a strange trail of behavior that only deepened the mystery. 2 days before their deaths, Mano and Miguel were seen buying the lead sheets they used to make the masks. They also purchased 2 waterproof raincoats and had them carefully wrapped. They were spotted carrying large sums of cash, yet when their bodies were found, most of the money was still there. Whatever they were doing, money wasn't the motive, and theft wasn't the cause. The strangest purchase of all: a single bottle of mineral water. This seemingly insignificant detail might not sound suspicious, but when investigators interviewed the shopkeeper who sold it, he recalled something chilling. The men appeared nervous, on edge, as if they were about to do something dangerous. One of them asked about the water almost absent-mindedly, while the other kept glancing toward the door, as if afraid they were being watched. When the shopkeeper asked why they seemed so tense, Miguel reportedly replied, "It's for later. We can't talk about it now." Minutes after leaving the store, they headed straight toward Hill, carrying nothing but the bottle of water, their raincoats, and the masks. From that point on, no one saw them alive again. Investigators were desperate to understand the meaning behind the cryptic note found at the scene. It read, "Be at the agreed place at 4:30. Swallow capsules. Wait for signal." But what could these simple lines really mean? Some experts believed the note pointed to a scientific experiment. Mano and Miguel were both electronic technicians, and it was rumored they were interested in building devices that could communicate with extraterrestrials or other realms of reality. The masks, in this theory, were to protect them from radiation or bright lights, while the capsules might have been some kind of drug to enhance their perception. But if this was an experiment, what signal were they waiting for? And why did they die side by side before anything could happen? Another theory was far darker. Some believed the men were tricked, manipulated by someone who promised them secret knowledge or power. Imagine this. A mysterious figure tells you they can reveal something extraordinary, but only if you follow precise instructions. Make these masks, wear these coats, go to this exact location, swallow these capsules, wait for the sign. Would you do it? Would you risk everything for a glimpse at the unknown? Police wondered if someone had played on the men's curiosity, luring them into a deadly trap. If so, who was this person? And why did they vanish without a trace? Then there were the UFO sightings. On the night of August 20th, multiple locals reported flashing lights hovering over Hill. Some described them as glowing orange orbs. Others swore they saw a craft, silent and metallic, drifting through the clouds before disappearing. To many, this was undeniable proof that the men had been attempting contact with something not of this world. Were the masks meant to shield their eyes from some blinding alien technology? Could the capsules have been part of a ritual to prepare them for an encounter? Or was this all part of an elaborate cover-up? As investigators chased down leads, they discovered that Mano and Miguel weren't the only ones involved in this strange pursuit. Several of their friends and colleagues shared similar beliefs about otherworldly communication and experiments with high-frequency devices. Some even admitted they had built homemade contraptions, trying to capture signals from beyond the stars. One friend told police that both men had been obsessed with contacting spirits or extraterrestrials. In the weeks before their deaths, they had spoken often about a great revelation that was coming, but they refused to give details, saying only that they needed to prepare carefully. Could this have been what led them to their final moments on the hill? A belief so strong that they willingly put themselves in harm's way. Despite the growing pile of theories, no physical evidence could confirm any of them. The capsules were never found. The source of the note was never identified, and the supposed signal, whatever it was, remained an unsolved puzzle. As the days turned into weeks, police faced mounting pressure to close the case. The media swarmed the story, dubbing it the lead mask's mystery. Headlines speculated about UFOs, secret government projects, and occult rituals. But behind the sensationalism, there was only frustration. No solid answers, no suspect to arrest, no clear cause of death. Finally, after exhausting every lead, investigators made a controversial move. They classified the deaths as undetermined, effectively admitting they had no idea what had really happened. For the families of Mano and Miguel, it was a devastating blow. Not only had they lost their loved ones, but they were left with no explanation, only rumors and fear. Yet, even as the official investigation ended, the legend of the lead masks case was just beginning. Because as more people learned about the bizarre details, new theories emerged, some of them far more chilling than anything police had considered. In Part 3, we'll explore those terrifying theories and the haunting legacy of this case. From secret societies to alien contact, we'll uncover why this mystery still captures imaginations, and why it might never be solved. The official investigation may have ended, but the story of Mano and Miguel didn't fade away. If anything, it grew darker, stranger, and more terrifying with each passing year. To this day, the lead mask's mystery continues to haunt investigators, UFO enthusiasts, and conspiracy theorists alike. And as more people learned about the bizarre details, countless theories began to emerge, each one more chilling than the last. One of the most widely believed theories is that Manuel and Miguel were part of a secret spiritualist group. During the 1960s, Brazil saw a rise in organizations blending science, mysticism, and occult practices. Some of these groups believed they could communicate directly with spirits or beings from another dimension by using electronic devices. In this theory, the men were attempting to reach out to the unknown. The lead masks were to protect their eyes from an intense flash of light during contact. The raincoats, possibly to shield them from radiation or some other harmful energy. But this theory leaves one terrifying question. What exactly were they trying to contact? And why did no one else in the group ever come forward after their deaths? Another theory suggests that they were involved with organized crime or a government experiment. Some believe Manuel and Miguel might have been lured to Hill by someone posing as a scientist or military official. Imagine being told you've been chosen to test a groundbreaking invention. You're given specific instructions, Make these masks. Bring this equipment. Follow these exact steps. You'd probably trust them, right? But what if the entire plan was a setup? The capsules they swallowed could have been poison, eliminating them quietly while leaving behind almost no trace. This would explain why the case went nowhere. No toxicology tests, no witnesses willing to speak, just two bodies, a cryptic note, and a growing list of unanswered questions. Then there's the UFO connection, by far the most famous and frightening theory. Multiple witnesses claimed to have seen strange, glowing lights hovering over Hill on the very night of the incident. Some described them as fiery orange spheres, others as sleek, metallic craft drifting silently through the clouds. To UFO researchers, these reports are no coincidence. They believe the men were attempting to make contact with extraterrestrials, and that their deaths were either part of the ritual or a tragic accident caused by exposure to something alien. The masks, in this theory, were meant to protect their vision from an intense otherworldly light. The capsules could have been some kind of mind-altering substance to prepare them for communication. And the signal they were waiting for, perhaps it came, and they weren't ready to handle it. But among all these theories, there's one that's far more unsettling. A possibility that makes this case uniquely disturbing. What if no one else was involved at all? What if Mano and Miguel willingly did this to themselves? Driven by obsession, by a belief so deep and consuming that they followed a plan of their own creation to its fatal conclusion. Consider this: the masks weren't professionally made. They were hand-cut, rough around the edges, clearly built in a small workshop. The note wasn't cryptic because someone wanted to hide the meaning. It was cryptic because it only had to make sense to them. Two men, alone, stepping into the unknown and never coming back. The scariest part, we may never know the truth, because so many pieces of evidence were lost or destroyed. The real story of what happened on that hilltop has been buried under decades of speculation and myth. There are no living witnesses, no preserved physical samples, just two lifeless bodies found beneath the storm clouds of Hill, and a mystery that refuses to die. Over the years, the site has become a magnet for thrill seekers and paranormal enthusiasts. People hike to the spot where the bodies were discovered, some leaving behind offerings, others hoping to witness the strange lights for themselves. But those who've been there say the place has an unnerving atmosphere. The air feels heavier, the silence seems deeper, and sometimes, if you stand perfectly still, they claim you can hear whispers carried by the wind. Could this be imagination? Or is the mystery of the lead mask's case still lingering, trapped between this world and the next? The most terrifying thing about this case isn't just the unanswered questions. It's the realization that it could happen again. Two men vanished into a secret they could never share, leaving behind only fragments of their final moments. And somewhere out there, others might be following the same path, experimenting, seeking contact, pushing beyond the limits of human understanding. If they are, will we ever know? Or will their story end the same way, with nothing but a note to masks and a silence that speaks louder than words. The lead mask's case remains one of the most haunting, unsolved mysteries in modern history. It is a chilling reminder of how fragile our grasp on reality can be, and how easily the line between science and superstition can blur. Now, I want to hear from you. What do you think happened that night? Was it a scientific experiment gone wrong, a government cover-up, or something far beyond our understanding? Let me know in the comments below. And if you found this story as chilling as I did, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another terrifying tale. Because here on No One Is Watching, we explore the mysteries that others are too afraid to confront. Stay curious, stay safe, and remember, sometimes the scariest truths are the ones we'll never uncover.